Remember when this season was shaping up to be the craziest season since 2007? Upsets were happening all over the place. Yeah, what happened to that? Because now the upsets have disappeared. We haven't really seen many upsets at all in the last few weeks. From our video last week, the 8 games we picked, none of them were upsets. And I went through the schedule, and I didn't even see any games that were upsets last week. And again, when we talk upsets, the spread had to be 4 points or more. So it's really strange how this season has turned. It started off so crazy. I talked about this last week a little bit, how it's a big reason why we saw those upsets early in the season is because we didn't realize how good and how bad some of these teams were. And now that we have kind of figured that out, we kind of know what to expect. But we still got a ways to go. We're just now starting the month of November, and I think we're going to see some upsets here down the stretch. It's just, it would be pretty wild if we don't see some big upsets in the month of November. And what's crazy is we were talking about how this season, with all the upsets, we were talking about maybe 3-loss teams getting in the playoff and, no undefeated teams, all this chaos. Now we're talking about 1-loss teams possibly being left out, multiple 2-loss teams possibly being left out. So we're going to see, again, first part of the year, crazy. Middle part, calm down. What are we going to get in this last part? I'm going to give you the 10 games that I think are most likely to be upsets here in Week 10. But like I said, there were none last week. Maybe we don't see any this week. I think we will see at least one. So these are the games. And we'll start with the least likely, work our way up to the most likely. Now, there were some games I could have put on here that I didn't, just because they're just off the radar games. Like I think Arizona, UCF was favored by about a touchdown. Like those two teams, I think both teams are have 3 or 4 losses. That's just not a game that really, and this may sound harsh, but most people just don't care about a game like that. So there are some games I probably could have picked that are more likely than these 8, but these are the 8 games again that involve teams that are still somewhat in their conference races or the playoff race or whatever. So let's start with number 1 here. Texas Tech at Iowa State. This game is at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Iowa State is favored by 14.5. Pretty big number there. Again, with Iowa State, how good is this team really? We haven't seen them play any quality opponents. So that's the big thing here, is I just don't know how good Iowa State is. Texas Tech has been really inconsistent. At times they've looked good. At times they've looked bad. So I don't know what Texas Tech team is going to show up. And this is just one to keep an eye on. I don't really see Iowa State, especially at home, losing. But it could, if we're going to shift back to September and the early part of the season and we get crazy, then maybe we see an upset like this happen. Let's go to Florida, Georgia. This one's at 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Georgia favored by 16.5. It looked like Georgia kind of found something against Texas, but you built some momentum, and then you have to go to a bye week. That could actually hurt Georgia here. Florida, they've started to figure some things out as well. Almost beat Tennessee. Looked really good against Kentucky. DJ Lagway stepping in there. Maybe he can take advantage of this Georgia defense. We know those Kirby Smart defenses, they don't really like playing the dual threat quarterback. So maybe Florida's got a chance to make this game interesting. We'll see what happens in this one, but I think you do need to put the dogs on upset alert in this game. All right, next we've got Louisville, Clemson. This one's at 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Clemson favored by 10.5. This is another game where, kind of like with Iowa State, how good is Clemson? We saw them against Georgia. The first half they looked pretty good. Second half didn't look good at all. But since then they really haven't played anyone. And for Louisville, they're battle tested. They've played some quality opponents. They've come up short in some games, but they're going to be, a hungry team, a desperate team, if they haven't given up on the season. Now, we saw Colin Lacey. He's going to be out the rest of the season, redshirting, or I don't know if he's actually getting ready for the draft. I can't remember exactly what the story was there, but they're not going to have him. So you wonder about players possibly sitting out, possibly giving up on the season for Louisville, but they're just 5-3. They can still have a very solid season and a chance to go on the road and pull off a big upset here. If Clemson is focused and they play their A game, though, I believe Clemson is a really good team. Again, I haven't seen that proven, but a chance to prove it here against a quality opponent in Louisville. This one should be a good one. Next, we've got Indiana, Michigan State. This one's at 3:30 Eastern time on Peacock, the dreaded Peacock game. Yes, Indiana favored by 7.5 points in this game on the road. Curtis Rourke, I don't know if he's going to be back yet for this one. I do think he'll be back for the next game if he's not back for this one. So that'll be interesting to see how things play out at quarterback. Indiana answered the challenge last week without him, played pretty well against Washington. This time, though, it's on the road. Michigan State's got a pretty good home field advantage. A Michigan State team that has been solid this year. They've been better than I thought they would, honestly, even though the record's just 4-4. So this one could be interesting. Again, I think Michigan State is a capable team, a team that could possibly. I remember they beat Iowa. That was a big surprise to everyone at the time, but I think now people realize, yeah, Michigan State's not bad. They had their chances to beat Michigan last week, and so they could possibly pull off a big upset here against Indiana. Next, we've got Oregon, Michigan at 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS. Oregon's favored by 14.5 points. Look, Michigan, their offense, it's just not very good. They don't have a passing attack. Davis Warren now going to be the guy for them at quarterback. He's probably been their most productive passer. But for Michigan, the reason why I think they have a chance in this game is because of their defense. And I think if their defense can make some big plays, perhaps a defensive touchdown and something like that, or a special teams play, their defense can keep this game interesting. They can keep it close. Again, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot out of this Michigan offense, but if their defense can make some big plays and they can find a way to kick some field goals, win like a 16-14 type game, something like that could happen here. But yeah, I think this is going to be a test for Oregon up front. Can they match up with this Michigan, especially this Michigan defensive line? That'll be a big key here. Oregon should win this game if they play again their A game, but if they make some mistakes, Michigan absolutely could pull off an upset. And like I said, there were no upsets last week. It's not like there's a bunch of games jumping out at me this week. There's a lot of games where the spread is like 3.5 points, like Ohio State, Penn State was 3.5. So a lot of games that I couldn't use, and so maybe we don't see many of these, or maybe we only see one, or maybe we see 0 of these games. But these are the games that I think you at least need to keep an eye on. Ole Miss, Arkansas next. This one's at noon Eastern Time on ESPN. Ole Miss favored by 7. They're on the road. This is a good Arkansas team. I would not be surprised at all if Arkansas won this game. Ole Miss has not been consistent this year. They've been kind of up and down. They haven't looked great at times. Arkansas is a team that's just been kind of getting better and better. Taylor Green at quarterback is a dynamic playmaker. Petrino calling plays has done really, really well to boost this offense. So Arkansas at home, yeah, absolutely they can pull off an upset here. So these final few games, I think we definitely could see upsets. Next, we've got Pittsburgh, SMU, 8 o'clock Eastern Time on the ACC Network. SMU favored by 7.5. This should be a good game. I'm surprised that spread is that high. SMU, they've got some injuries. Lost their tight end, one of their better running backs, Jalen Knighton. So that's going to be interesting to see if those injuries affect them at all. But for Pittsburgh, we're also talking about an injury. Eli Holstein, is he going to go? If he does not play, I think Pitt is going to have a hard time winning this game. But if he does play, he has shown that he's changed his team. Honestly, this offense has changed with him and the young running back they've got. So I think Pitt, if he plays, has a really good shot at pulling off an upset here. If he does not play, then I really don't see them getting the win. So that'll be the story to watch in this game. And then finally, we've got Vanderbilt, Auburn. This one's at 12:45 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Auburn favored by 6.5. Kind of seems strange to see them favored. I realize that Auburn has lost a lot of close games. They've blown a lot of games, and they are coming off of a nice win over Kentucky. But Vanderbilt's a good team. They're a solid team. They're a tough team to defend. The story will be up front. Can Auburn's front seven cause some problems, get in the backfield to stop this Vanderbilt basically triple option attack? Diego Pavia is 2-0 against Hugh Freeze. And he, of course, pulled off the shocker last year when New Mexico State went in there and upset Auburn. So, yeah, this one to me, I don't even know who I would pick. It's very close to picking Vanderbilt here. So Auburn being favored by 6.5, this was an obvious pick, and I think this will be the most likely upset that we see in Week 10. So what do you guys think? Do you see a big upset that could happen that's not in the video? Which of the upsets that I mentioned do you like? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below.